Hello, welcome to episode 12 of No Holds Barred. That's Sal.
Good afternoon. Day,
And I'm Don.
morning. Oh, that wasn't very clever, was it?
Could be
Good day to you all. Good evening if it's the night time.
A very good day to you. Yeah, welcome along again. Episode 12, we're cracking on as always. Looking forward to a break from PMQs for the summer, I think, but we'll still be going, won't we?
I was
but,
devastated. Devastated that my wonky brain told me this week was the last week. I don't know why I thought that. And then you pissed all over my chips. So
I did, sorry. Two more after this week.
2 more weeks
left. But not too long. It's a bit like me. My son's got 2 more weeks of primary school left forever, and then he's up to big school. So he's kind of desperate for that to finish. I'm like, it's only 2 more weeks. But yeah.
Don't go up too soon. It's rubbish.
Yeah, I know. We've digressed pretty quick though this week. So yeah, welcome to everyone again. Thank you all for tuning in, listening, watching, whatever you're doing. You can watch us on Spotify and YouTube. And excitingly, this week I decided to put us on TikTok. So yeah, I know, down with the kids and all that. What the Sigma is,
learning more new things.
So so if you're into that sort of thing, you can find our short clips are going on TikTok now and actually getting loads and loads of views. It seems to be much more popular than YouTube
That's
at
awesome.
the moment. So I only put on about 4 clips.
I'm going to have to venture on and figure it out.
We've had about 3,000 views in 2 days or something on TikTok. So I've lost my camera.
Wow.
There it goes. Yes. So yeah, join us on TikTok, where it's NoHoldBarredPod, the same as we are on YouTube and Twitter and stuff. So you'll find us. We're pink. It's pretty standout. Yeah, and that's it. So as usual, we're just going to get into anything political, social, or anything else we can think of. No holds barred. So let's get on with it, I think. We'll probably start with a long PMQs analysis this week, I think, because it was interesting.
I mean, there was content. Yeah. Starmer's back. Okay, well, Starmer's back at the dispatch box. So that was great. When he stood up and wished the NHS happy birthday. Funny enough, same age as the Nakba. So that's nice. I think the first question was a Labour plan, because they were lauding Labour because one of their constituents saved £500 thanks to Labour, and they are quoted as saying only Labour would have done this. Okay, I mean, you've saved 500 quid, but how much are you paying for your utilities? Just saying. Yeah, so only Labour would have done this, apparently, according to that constituent, which then, of course, gave Keir Starmer the opportunity to stand up and brag about free school meals. So that's great. And obviously it was the day after what we're going to talk about in a little bit, which was the benefit cuts bill, which Kemi Badenoch called out pretty damn quickly, and she was on steroids yesterday. I'm not going to say fire because she's a terrible human being. She's a really, really awful human being, and she did nothing but advertise it yesterday. She's like a rabid animal that sees another injured animal and just can't help herself. Rabid, it's the key word there. So she was basically, after all the concessions made, how much are you going to save now? Which I suppose, in a way, is her job. She's just an awful person. He then stood up and said that they made some excellent concessions yesterday. They're going to end mandatory reassessment, rebalancing universal credit. Okay, how? Because that's just words. That doesn't mean anything. And it's going to be better all round. He showed no accountability, no shame, and gave her no answer to her question. She then asked how many disabled people you're going to be able to get back into work. And the cheeky bastard stood up and started talking about trailblazers, which do you know what trailblazers are?
No, I don't.
No, most people wouldn't. I only know what trailblazers are because I've got a 19-year-old that I'm desperately trying to get into an apprenticeship. Trailblazers look after, I think it's 18 to 21-year-olds roughly, that might not be exact, but it's about getting young people back into employment and trained and education and all that. Great scheme, probably. I haven't actually looked into it, but in theory, it's a great scheme.
Okay.
But it has absolutely fuck all to do with the benefit cuts.
No.
It's not about sick people. It's about getting kids into work. So not even a relative answer. She asked about apples, and he started talking about cans of paint. Which is just, it's shameful. Where's his fucking... Wow. Anyway. So, yeah, he entirely fluffed that answer. It pissed me right off because the pair of them were basically using disabled people to play handbags with, and it's repulsive. She stood up and went on with this. I'm going to call it a lie because I've never seen any source proof of this figure that gets bandied about. She said 1,000 people a day, and I've got her in quote marks here, are signing on to PIP. Right? You cannot sign on to PIP. You can apply for it, and you then have to wait a long time to get assessed. And to get assessed, you have to have doctor's certificates, you have to have your medical records, you have to prove beyond shadow of a doubt that you've been diagnosed with these conditions and you have suffered for a long time. You don't just sign up. It's not conscription.
No. I know. I saw her say that, and I thought,
I can't... Sorry. No, John, just before you interject, she said 2,000 people. I'm sure she said 2,000 people, which is it's been one. The numbers that have been bandied about have been 1,000. I'm sure she actually verbalised 2,000 because I was like,
"Oh right, well, it's worth a check." Well,
are
I'll
we
look at that, but
just randomly shoving it up, are we?
Well, she does that.
Are they getting 1,000 applications a day? I doubt it.
No, that's what I think. I think let's check up on that before I put it out tomorrow. Because I heard that figure and I thought that's bollocks. Surely that must be bollocks. That's sounds like a Matt Goodwin made up stat that he found on GB News. So yeah, we'll check. See if we can find out for sure on that.
I've got a note here saying that they're arguing about numbers, not the cause, because they don't care about the cause. Well, it's just handbags in it. Starmer had another foodstuff malapropism when he was trying to say the system, and he said biscuits instead.
He said what? Biscuits?
Instead of the system. It's quite funny. It's changed from sausage anyway.
I totally missed that. I'm gonna have to try and find a clip for that if I can find it. Yeah. Okay.
Now she describes the broken system that we are trying to fix. What did she do? She voted against fixing the system that they broke. And I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker.
The biscuit system. I've just put rinse, recycle, repeat, insane.
Yeah.
Starmer started wanging on about the 40 billion of Amazon investment we've got. Great, but they don't pay any fucking tax, do they? So, and I'm sure you subsidise their their workers' wages with universal credit. So, shut up. Badenoch, unbelievably, actually accused Labour of creating the black hole. What?
Yeah.
What? Just put mad bitch. And then she started on Reeves.
Yeah, she did.
So while Reeves was sat behind Starmer in absolute bits, I know that face all too well. She was genuinely devastated over something.
Definitely.
Starmer then started listing Labour's actual achievements. Fair dues, the bar is on the fucking floor, but they have done some bits.
They have.
There isn't one of them you couldn't pick holes in, but that's life, innit?
Yeah.
So, fair dues to Starmer for that, but...
Yeah, I had a thought about that because I don't think between you and I, we're not very supportive of what Labour are doing with many things at the moment, but there are a few things that they have done, and I thought maybe next week I might have a look at that because although we need to highlight all the shitty bits because that's the important bits that need to be fought against, we need. I want to just give a bit of, non-partisan kind of look at it.
The Starmer Reeves thing, none of it is personal for me. Like, I personally despise the Tories because they did what they did for years and years and years. I'm still, as much as I despise what they've done and how they've behaved, I'm still going to be fair. You've still got to get drops where they're due. Do you know what I mean? It's about the subject matter, not the fucking people. They're the vessels.
Yeah.
For the insanity. Which is why I've just said, fair dues. He pulled out a list, and what he didn't do was support her or tell her to fucking go home, because if your brain is that disturbed, you should be resting somewhere, not being forced because of the press that you won't regulate to sit there and go through it. It's nuts.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There was a question about banning a new awful type of sword, right? I don't fucking get this. Knives don't need to be pointy. I can't actually think. There might be like one thing for hunting that you need like a slightly curved knife up, but the one knife I use in my kitchen the most has got a curved end on it.
Yeah,
and it's got blade here. I'm like, ban pointy fucking knives. It's not hard.
Yeah,
or is
definitely.
it? I don't know.
Shouldn't be, should it? But
Ed Davey stood up and said that in spite of the concessions made the day before, that there would be a massive benefit disparity for new claimants, which is absolutely correct. How are the government going to deal with this? Starmer said, see the Timms review. What, in 2028? Yeah, smash them.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking bollocks.
Has it got a date? It hasn't got a date, has it? Properly, the Timms review.
2028.
Has it? Okay.
2020. I'm sure 2028.
Yeah, fair enough.
It might be 27, but I think it's 28 because, very annoyingly, my friend said to me, because I hate it when he's right, and he was right about the bloody benefit bill, but he told me weeks and weeks ago what was going to happen. He said, look, they're going to get to the vote. He said, they'll water it down, they'll pass it. And I'm like, fuck off. Because, it's just not on. But he also said that I think it must be 28, because he said when we were chatting, well, think about it. He said, what's 2028? It's the year before the general election. What do they do before a general election with benefit bills?
Yeah.
They always shit on the disabled before a general election because, look, we're treating the poor like shit. Vote for us. Apparently it's a vote winner.
Yeah.
So they're just kicking the can down the road, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're doing what the Tories did with everything.
If they'd have passed a horrible bill and put it in, I mean, they still may. We don't know what's going to come out with is it Wednesday? When's the third reading? Is it this Friday or next Friday? It's got to be next Friday.
Actually.
It must be next Friday.
Yeah. I'll find out.
But we won't until they bring the new reading out. We're not going to know what the details are because it was such a clusterfuck.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Oh, flip my page the wrong way. So Ed Davey was very good, to be fair. And he then asked about the Hillsborough law that I think we mentioned last week. Apparently, Hillsborough, Grenfell, and all like the big scandal groups have got together under an umbrella, which I think is fabulous.
Yes, definitely.
But they're all very worried because the Hillsborough law has been watered down so much. Can the Prime Minister assure Ed Davey that the Hillsborough law will contain a full legal duty of candour? To which Starmer replied, yes. But that doesn't actually mean anything because they've already watered it down. So is he saying, yes, the watered down one's going to go through, or we're going to readdress it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Kim Johnson stood up and she absolutely buried him over the Hillsborough law. She said it's watered down dog shit, obviously not in those words. Ian Byrne's going to reintroduce a full Hillsborough law. Will Starmer support it? And Starmer replied with absolute word salad that meant nothing. So I think that gives us the answer to that. Adrian Ramsey asked, will the PM ditch 2-child benefit cap and cuts to universal credit for sick and disabled people?
Yeah.
And his response to that reasonable fucking question was he won't listen to the Greens due to the unfunded tax cut commitments they put forward in their manifesto, he says that the Greens block everything they try to do, probably for a good reason, and he deliberately missed the point. And then, just to finish it off, power excellence, a Scouts bloke stood up and asked if the government could look at safety measures on multi-storey car parks to stop people throwing themselves off.
Yeah,
Don't deal with the suicidality, just deal with them not being able to jump from a great height.
Yeah, big fence. As we said
Don't tell
before,
your people how to behave, stop them doing things. Anyway.
A big fence is an awful lot cheaper than solving the problem. Yeah, exactly.
Than looking after mental health. Yeah, quite right.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So that was PMQs. 2 more to go. Not done counting.
Nearly done for the year. Well, for the term. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to find some random subjects to talk about.
I'm sure there will be. I know.
Sorry, listeners.
Oh, we got a special guest next week. I forgot to say earlier to everyone listening and also to you. So, Dr. Rachel Morris has agreed to come and chat to us next week.
Yeah.
So I booked her in. She's coming on next Thursday. So episode 13, we'll have Dr. Rachel on, and that will be a brilliant chat to have. Yes. Yeah, I know. The 13th episode, but that should be cool. But yeah, we'll find plenty of things to talk about when PMQs is on. We've got lots of people wanting to come and chat as well, and so we're going to book in a few more guests over the summer to fill the gaps. Yeah.
Just checking, right? I think I'm being a bit mad, but oh no, I was just checking. Next Friday's the 11th, because 13th episode and all that. Don't want to be doing it.
Oh yeah, no, it's on the 10th, anyway. Thankfully, the 10th of July. Yeah, so I think so that'll be an interesting chat for us. But yeah, I think we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about, are we? Let's be honest. Without PMQs,
I know,
because I got a feeling it's going to be a kind of interesting summer, which is kind of something I was going to talk about. I wrote a post in the week about the far right ramping up the rhetoric, and this week. Well, last weekend it came out of Glastonbury. I think it was Farage. It was at it first, and he said after the Bob Villain Farrago, he said, "Oh, we want our country. If you want our country back from these lunatics, vote Reform." And then everyone in Reform started saying, "We want our country back." And then GB News started saying, "We want our country back."
Where? From who?
Well, that is the post I wrote, and the question I asked, I said to everybody, when you see these people post this shit, ask them back from what or back from who. It's just a racist dog whistle. That's all it is.
Oh. You just reminded me of something that happened about when I split my shin open before.
Right.
Don't do DIY, people. My neighbour came out to help me, bless her. Who I don't know very well. She's always been friendly and we take each other's parcels in, kind of thing. But you know when you just get a hunch?
Yeah.
You just get a hunch about someone. Anyway, kept my powder drying. So I've been fine. Chatting before. Oh, that was it, because the lady on the end's put a house up for sale.
All right.
Obviously, we've both gone and clocked how much it's up for because nosy. And we were talking about house prices, and guess where it ended up going?
Immigration reform, GB News.
How did you know? So I went, hold it there. And now she's educated.
Oh, good. Excellent. Well, that's the way to do it.
I don't know if we're still friends, but, I wasn't, attacking her. I was just, explaining the situation. And to be fair to her, at the end when I went, and, what do you expect? How do you expect to bomb other countries and not have immigrants coming in? And she went, oh, no, it's terrible. So it's still their fault, but it's terrible.
We've talked about it loads, and it's a lot about is education, not just school education, just general kind of knowledge of what's going on in the world and how things are interconnected, because people like that often don't get it. They don't understand the interconnectivity of bombing Iraq and then Iraqi refugees arriving in boats. It doesn't register in people's heads, does it?
From the way she was speaking, she's not a hateful person. She wasn't like you, them immigrants. She was just like, immigrants.
Yeah.
I interpreted her knowledge base to come from mainstream news.
Yeah. Which
Because
misses
she
out an
knew,
awful
you
lot,
know,
right?
she didn't understand that the Tories and the government have bought most of those hotels that neither you, me, nor her would be happy staying in if we'd paid to stay in a hotel, because
Yeah.
they become hospitals, you know?
Yeah.
They don't have, like, if you think they've got one double bed in them bedrooms in a hotel, I'd be amazed. They must be, like, fitting them in, and,
Beds.
you know, because
Yeah.
whoever owns those hotels is getting paid per head, aren't they?
I think so. It's not
So
luxury, is it? That's one of the things, the myths that gets sort of sent out by GB News and those sorts of people, that they're living in 4-star hotels, isn't it? And people
Well, they
who
tell
don't.
half truths.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Oh, but look, I think I mentioned early doors on the pod. My friend works in the Home Office, and he told me
Yeah.
he'll get a free iPhone. And I'm like, are you well? They do not, and you
No.
literally work in the Home Office. So what the fuck is wrong with you that you believe that? It's just, oh well, to get some sort of phone. Well, that's very different. Getting some sort of phone is very different from an iPhone that costs $1,000 to 50 quid in Asda. Do you know what I mean? There's a
Exactly.
difference.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what it is, though, isn't it? And you say that it's a half truth, and people just sort of take a small part of something that is true, i.e., they might get a phone, or they do stay in a hotel, and then they just sort of ramp it up into ridiculousness, and people just lap it up and they believe it, unfortunately. Yeah.
The 1% are always the problem.
Yeah.
Right now.
True.
They're the answer to everything. Anyway, sorry, I was completely wandering again.
No, it's absolutely fine. Yeah, we were just talking. We were talking about the summer, and I just sort of segued a bit into the far right, because I think this whole "we want our country back" spiel that Farage started last weekend is kind of ramping up to, that they know what it's like with the summer, and people are off work, kids are off school, things get more tricky, and
it's
I
out
just
of
got
season.
yeah, I just feel this, like they're just trying to ramp it up again, and the rhetoric's coming harder. Plus, I think Reform are reeling at the moment because of what's happened this week, aren't they? They've had their vote share basically split into 3. I called them Trivial Pursuit wedges on Twitter, but I think that's it. Like, Farage was quite happy, sort of safe in the knowledge that he had the far right sewn up, but now he's not, because Rupert Lowe's Rupert Lowe's announced a not party. Definitely not a party. I've been told multiple times it's not a party. What's that called? Yeah.
The thing is, if you call yourself a movement, that means other people from actual political parties can still be part of that. Whereas if you call themselves a political party, people would have to choose a lane. Whereas at the minute, they get the best of both, horrible bastards.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very true. Whereas Ben Habib has gone.
Oh, what's he doing?
Go on. Ben Habib's launched an actual party, hasn't he?
Oh, God, has he?
Yeah, it's called Advance UK, which I think sounds like a pet vitamin or something. I don't know. But it's just Advance UK.
It sounds like a flea treatment.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like something you'd find it.
Oh, no, I'm thinking it's called the pet one's called Advantage.
There you go. Yeah, I don't have pets, but to me, Advance sounds like a pet product of some description, doesn't it? So,
flea treatment.
And I noticed when he's launched it on Twitter the other day, and he's obviously not thought it through particularly well, because there's loads of things called Advance. It's obviously people want to be an A, so it appears early, but because so many other things are called
definitely
Advance.
An A.
Yeah, his Twitter handle is _advance. So when you're starting up a political party, you don't want to have your Twitter handle starting with an underscore. I mean, that's just basics of social media kind of marketing. Anything. Sorry, you better.
Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's crazy. Why start a party called _advance? Anyway, it's definitely rattled. It's rattled Farage though, because Farage has been out. He's been out in the media all week, and they've been wanging on about pride flags like you can't imagine this week. It's just madness.
I'm fuming. The amount of council time they're taking up talking about flags when there's actual real shit to get on with.
I know.
Boot them into the sea and getting people who can do a job.
Yeah, exactly. So in case you didn't know, and you're not as tuned into this shit as I am, which is probably wise.
Who tuned in?
The CEO of Warwickshire County Council refused a Reform request to take down their pride flag because Reform have got this bee in their bonnet about flags, and they only want the Union flag, the St George's flag, and I think the local council flags flown at anything to do with Reform. But the CEO, who's called Monica Fogarty, told them basically to stick it, which is great because it's Pride Month, and she was like, no, you haven't got control. It's a minority council. You can't dictate to us what we do and what we don't do. I'm the CEO. Put a resolution forward. If it gets voted for, then fine. But in the meantime, you can go and whistle for it. So this really, really upset Reform. The first one I saw was
it's like telling
head boy.
No.
Yeah, that's it. They can't cope with being told no. Their power trip goes into it, sort of frazzles their brain.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, that's it. You know my name. I've met Nigel Farage twice. But I think Zaya Youssef was the first one I saw come out, and he put a video out calling it a coup d'etat, that they refused to take down this pride flag. Yeah.
And then somebody posted up what a coup d'etat actually means.
Yeah.
Fucking mutant.
What's wrong with you? Because, and he did like a 4-minute long video about why this, because
it was
the CEO,
so bad. It was such a bad video. He thought he looked so cool.
I know.
Oh,
he's doing a lot of this
dick.
stuff. He just comes across as this
fucking Jenrick Goodwin bandwagon, isn't it? They're all doing it. Well, you said, didn't you?
I know.
I'm going to London in a few weeks.
I'm going at the weekend. I might get accosted by Tory MPs doing backwards walking videos. I know, it's just nuts. But yeah, so Zaya Youssef's bloody 4-minute video about how a pride flag was a coup d'etat, and then Farage jumped on it and said, this is just a disgrace, how dare they? And then Richard Tice put out a video saying, we're going to war with local councils. I mean, it's a fucking pride flag. Jesus Christ, get some perspective and do your jobs. And it's gone mad, and Tice posted again this morning about it, even though it was taken down 3 days ago because Pride Month has finished. It was June, so the flag is now no longer flying. He posted a video this morning saying how it kind of contravened planning regulations, and Farage, Tice, and Youssef have all called for this woman to lose her job now. Like, what? Seriously, you're calling for an elected official to be ousted from their job because she turned you down and said, no, we're not taking a flag down. They've lost the plot, completely lost the plot. And I think it's down to this split coming from Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib is really made them rattle their cages this week. So it's interesting to watch. But
there's no power in dilution, is there? So it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I'm sort of watching this sort of split, and by my count, I put a graphic out. I'll stick it down below, but we got 6. I thought there was 6, but I think there's actually 7 now, sort of far right parties. I think you've got Reform, Advance, which is Ben Habib's new thing. You've got UKIP, who are trying to sort of really claw into this Christian nationalist thing. Patriotic Alternative, who are Nazis. Britain First, who are also Nazis. And Restore Britain, which is Rupert Lowe, definitely not a party thing. And then someone reminded me that there's a Heritage Foundation or Heritage Party as well.
Are they a party or a think tank?
It's hard to find out. And I thought that was Rupert Lowe as well. So maybe he's ditched that and changed it to Restore Britain, which I think sounds like an antiques fair. But They have to have Britain or UK in it somewhere, but I don't know. They're just this far right split is really. Sorry,
Isn't it American? Isn't it an
no,
American thing?
yeah, it does feel like that. But I think that might be our
Okay.
summer watching. I think the
Well,
far
it
right
says here
splintering.
the Heritage Foundation is an American conservative think tank based in DC, founded in 1973.
Yeah, yeah, they are, and I think they're partly to do with the Project 2025 stuff in America. But I think there was a UK wing of it that Rupert Lowe I thought was associated with, but we'll check it out. Go on. What? Sal's making a face, just for those who aren't watching. The Heritage Foundation. I can't see. What does it say on the screen
Says we're a
you're holding
registered
up?
charity, Dom. Says we're a registered charity.
Oh, right. I'm sure they are. Okay. Well, that's worth a bit more looking into. Then I'd say. I think we'll have to have a look at that. Then, is that on Company's House? They're a registered charity. You just showed me. Yeah.
That was. She says trying to find it. Was it gone? That was the government register of charities.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll have a look into that then, because that's another interesting thing. I know there is also a Heritage Party UK.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the one I was
Just
thinking
found
of.
that.
David Curtin.
David Curtin. We know that name, don't we?
Yes, yeah, he's always been there or thereabouts with the far right, hasn't he? Definitely.
So it's definitely linked, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all linked. So yeah,
See, this is the stuff Charlotte Gill should be getting her teeth into.
Someone said that to me on Twitter. He said you need to do some more threads. I said, yeah, I'll need to get Charlotte Gill involved. She's the queen of getting threads out of. Excuse me, but yeah,
interesting.
I've just forgotten another one, which was Lawrence Fox's Reclaim Party. If they're still a real thing, that's another one. But I don't think they ever had any support anyway. But yeah, so the far right split into multiple segments now. So I think that's our summer viewing. We'll be watching what happens with interest with them, because it feels like maybe Reform are going to have to pull more to the right and to try and get some of their voters back from the, because I don't think the Tories
more
that
to
went
the
to
right.
Reform, yeah, to
party jack boots.
Yeah, they got the brown shirts on order. But I think people like Tommy Robinson coming out in favour of Rupert Lowe, which he did today, is quite a blow to Nigel Farage. I think that will really kind of send a shiver down Farage. No?
It can't be. Well, it can't be, can it? Because Farage kicked Robinson out, said he'd have nothing to do with him. So the writing was already on the wall.
Yeah, but I think Rupert Lowe, because he was Reform up until whatever it was, January this year or February, pulling that sort of far right support is a bit of a worry for Farage, because I think that I've said a few times that not all Reform voters are racist, but all racists are Reform voters. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think if there's another alternative for them to go for that's credible, in inverted commas, then they might drift away from Reform. I think, you know what Tommy Robinson's like. He does have support, an awful lot of support for some reason, and he could pull quite a lot out of Reform vote, I think. And I don't think the Tories that lent their vote to... Sorry?
Go on. So...
I was just going to say, I don't think the Tories who lent their votes to Nigel Farage in Runcorn and the local elections will be comfortable with Reform trying to outdo the extreme right rather than become far right. So I don't know. I think the polls are already slipping for Reform. I think it might slip further.
I mean, I don't know. There's so many of them, and they're all failing upwards somehow. But I still think, as far as I can see, like 2029, from where we are now, we're going to end up with probably the biggest coalition we've ever had.
Maybe.
As things stand now. But obviously, 4 years is a long time and a lot of things can happen. and none of them are growing any kind of substantive support. It's all just the same disillusioned, angry people who don't understand what's going on, who all they're going to do over the next 4 years is watch reform fuck up local councils.
Coalition, then it's all dropped out.
I just think that if I think the election's too far away for us to worry about that as much as they're taking each other out. I mean, we should set up a refuse party for taking out the trash. Do you know what I mean? But that's all they're doing. Oh, well, I'll set my own party. They're like kids. I'll have my own gang then. With absolutely no concept of like the bigger job. I mean, the people who are doing it now haven't got a big concept of the bigger job, but they're just another planet of people.
Yeah.
That
I heard
undereducated.
Yeah, I heard Farage being interviewed. I couldn't listen to the whole thing on LBC this morning because he just drives me up the wall. But one of the things was he was asked about Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib splitting away, and Farage just said, "Oh, they're excuse me, one-man bands. He's not worried, blah blah blah." But he is.
That's
He's
literally
definitely
that's the
about
biggest
it.
projection ever. One-man band, you say, Nige?
I know. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm just seeing what I had else on reform for this week. Oh yeah, there was one other thing that I really wanted to mention, and we can't mention a lot about it because it's actually an active case. But it's the reform councillor Mandy Clare got arrested last week and charged with assault and criminal damage at a Pride event in Winsford in Cheshire. She's known on Twitter as Mandy Clare Turf, which is gross.
I mentioned her last week, didn't I?
Yes, you did. And so she was arrested, and now she's on charge. So we can't say too much because it's an active legal case. But suffice to say that Nigel Farage or any member of Reform has neglected to mention her this week, despite being asked. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times.
I think we're allowed to say that she went and massively disrupted a Pride organised do.
I think that's fair.
Mass homophobia that drove her over the edge. Lunatic.
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, I think so.
Led her to attack a pregnant woman, I believe.
Excuse me. Yeah, go on.
So yeah. I mean, the Labour guy who got arrested, he had to be suspended immediately, but it's fine for her apparently. So.
I know.
That's just great. Yeah. Did you want to talk about Restore as a separate entity?
Talk about what? Sorry.
Restore as a separate entity. I just wanted to I didn't want to let the Susan Hall thing go.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, carry on. I forgot about her again, as I always do.
Purely, it was only about an hour ago while I was waiting to come on. I saw a post that people want to know what Susan Hall's going to do because she's joined Restore Britain as part of their advisory board or whatever. But she's also still a Tory, and she's still the Conservative leader of the London Assembly.
Yeah, that's right.
Is this
conflict of interest?
We were saying before. Well, it depends, doesn't it? If Rupert Lowe's going for like a right-wing momentum kind of thing, then fine, I guess. But is he doing it just? I just don't trust him. Can he then turn that into a political party at some point?
Well,
so he can't.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know. I just don't trust any of them. They're all terrible people. So yeah.
Yeah. He also.
Anyway.
Did you see the other person he announced was Professor David Starkey, the guy that
he's a Nazi basically, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he denied the Holocaust and all sorts when he was chatting on Darren Grimes' podcast a couple of years ago.
Oh God!
Yeah, he's a exactly. So Professor David Starkey and Susan Hall combo. I'm not really sure what to think about that, but it's not.
Show me the worst legless people that exist.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone that's been roundly humiliated in public, you'll do. So, Talking of which, did you see Reform have announced 2 new members, high-profile people into their party this week. Yesterday they announced that they'd recruited Anne-Marie Morris, the ex-Tory MP, who had the whip withdrawn twice, actually, but mainly because she dropped the N-word on a parliamentary panel. And she got the whip removed for that as a Tory MP. She was a Tory MP for 14 years. And then the second time she got the whip removed for voting with Labour to cut VAT on fuel bills. But yeah, she dropped the N-word on a parliamentary panel talking about Brexit, and was hoofed out the party briefly, but not permanently. But she's now the Reform's advisor on social care policies. So make of that what you will. And then they also announced today that they've got a new deputy chairman, which I don't know what this means for Zaya Youssef or whatever.
I thought David Bull was the new chairman.
David Bull's the chairman, but they've announced a deputy called Paul Nuttall. Paul Nuttall, ex-UKIP leader, ex-Brexit MEP, man who he lied about being at Hillsborough during the Hillsborough disaster. He lied and said he was there, and then it was proved that he wasn't. But he made up this big story.
A word with you, lad.
Yeah, exactly. But he made up a story, and then he changed it to say, "Oh no, it was some of my best friends were there and died," and then actually nothing was true of that story. And he also made up that he had a PhD from I can't even remember what it was, but a Liverpool University.
Oh God, is this the Scousing knobhead with the PA?
Mm-hmm.
The PA fella? Fucking hate him.
Yeah. So he's their new deputy chairman.
It was him that started the bloody, before the riots last year, it was him that went down to the hotel like 2 miles away from me and started the bloody riot kick-off there and set the police van on fire.
Was it?
They went round canvassing the neighbourhood, sticking their leaflets through people's doors and telling people that girls had gone in there and got assaulted. Nobody's ever found any proof of that, but that's how it all kicks off, because of him. Oh, he's
not a nice guy from what I can tell.
No, sorry. No, I stand corrected. It's not who I thought it was at all.
No.
But I do know the name. I'm confusing him with
Well, he's been in around Farage for a while.
I'm gonna have to find out.
He was the UKIP leader for a while, and then he left. But yeah, he was a Brexit MEP with Farage as well. But he's just made up loads of stuff in the past, and now he's the deputy chairman of Reform. So, as you said about failing upwards earlier, that seems pretty appropriate.
Oh, I can't. This is annoying. I can't find the list. Are
you thinking of Paul Golding?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
He's a Britain First guy. Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was getting them confused, but I know the name, not all. I'm just not sure where from. So sorry, I stand corrected on what I just said.
He looks like a comedy performer from the 80s, Paul Nuttall. But yeah, Paul Golding's the leader of Britain First, who is an out Nazi as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So yeah, he's
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
So they're both terrible.
Sorry, Paul Nuttall.
You terrible bastard.
Yeah. He's still terrible for making up a lie that he was at Hillsborough. I mean, that's pretty fucking shocking. So,
God, that's just tragic, isn't it? Imagine being that needy for attention.
Yeah, I know. It's just a grim. You can't even sort of psychologically fathom why someone would do that to sort of, make up that they were one of the worst. Sorry.
I've met people who've made up all sorts of shit, trust me. Yeah. And they don't carry labels, unfortunately.
No. Yeah, so do you want to talk about what happened on Tuesday?
Glasto? I was going to do Glasto first.
Oh, do Glasto then, let's do that.
Someone talking about genocide is preferable to talking about eugenics.
A bit of light relief with Glastonbury. Yeah.
No, I personally found it quite amusing that the BBC, the zealotry is just outrageous. They were so desperate to make sure Kneecap got absolutely no platform at all, that they didn't check the rest of the set list, and the person before Kneecap was Bob Villain, a punk rap duo that I'd never even heard of. And now
I hadn't.
everybody's heard of them in the world, because they've even had a gig cancelled over in America now, which is getting them more publicity than the gig ever could have done. So
Yeah.
nice one,
They
dickhead.
had their visas cancelled by America, didn't they?
That doesn't surprise me, but it's not something I would ever say. It's not something I think anyone should say, but I absolutely respect them for doing it and using their platform. You know, and it's been so, because of the cultural landscape, it's just been so ripped apart and taken out of context. And if anyone's more worried about that than the actual ongoing genocide, you need to give your head a wobble, because you're a dickhead.
That's the actual entire crux of the matter. If you're more worried about what was said on the stage at Glastonbury than the absolute horrific genocide that's happening in Gaza, then you're wrong.
It's just fucking unbelievable, isn't it? But anything else we say about Glastonbury? Because fucking hell. No, it's just, you know, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But momentum does seem to be growing on the old Free Palestine, doesn't it? Just not quick enough.
No, not quick enough. But there was that. Plus, Channel 4 had the documentary last night that the BBC bottled out of showing, didn't they? Which I haven't had a chance.
Out watching it yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I will watch it before next week. But I think the Bob Villain thing, I mean, Jesus, it's been so blown out of proportion. It's absolutely mental, isn't it? Absolutely everyone just calling for the BBC to be shut down. Like,
I mean, remove the board for a fucking start.
Oh, yeah. I know.
They're everywhere. They're infiltrated everywhere. They have them.
Yeah.
And we all know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say it because it pings the algorithm.
I know what you're talking about. We all do, yeah, exactly. But
because they're everywhere.
Yeah, they are. But there was something. The thing I've been hearing all the last 2 days is that there was 400 BBC staff at Glastonbury. Why weren't they at the BBC doing their job? Like, how many people does the BBC employ? I don't know.
Well, one, they work on flexi time. 2, people have fucking holidays. 3, the BBC is a massive organisation. And 4, why are you being so stupid as to say stuff like that? Not you, obviously, but you know,
21,000 staff the BBC.
So banal. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
And 400 went to Glasgow. That's probably an average statistic of most professions or companies.
A relative stat. Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, so, I mean, I just don't know what... Everything in the media is so ridiculously skewed and overblown now. And that... The Bob Villain thing last weekend did 2 things. And I think the first thing was it drew attention to the right thing, the cause, and people are talking about the right cause. Whether what he said was right or not, like you said, it's not something I would say, but I do respect them for saying it because it was the right thing to do. And that has made a huge difference this week in people talking about what's going on. So that's really important. And the other thing is it's just given the right wing like an absolute frothing week of headlines for no reason. And it's just showing how much the media is out of control and overblown by the right wing again. And people like Andrew Neil going on about, he said instead of, what did he say on his radio show? Something like, it was, they were calling for death to all Jews. That's exactly what he said. He said,
who said that?
No, that's what Andrew Neil claimed that's what Bob Villain was saying. He said that they were chanting death to all Jews. And that's why
people like Andrew Neil should be sent to an island that's very remote.
Exactly. And he said that, and he said not even the Nazis called for the death of Jews in front of the public. That says exact words.
You fucking ignorant
twat.
Oh, God.
But he's allowed to make the news. This is what we talk about all the time in the media, and they're allowed to create the fucking news, whereas that is not what he said. That's not what he meant. That's not what was
deliberately twisting it.
Yeah, and it wasn't. That's not what was understood by the majority of sensible people. We understood what the sentiment was and how he was drawing, what they were drawing attention to the cause correctly. But then you've got Andrew Neil, who's somehow still a journalist and somehow still has a primetime radio show on Times Radio, saying that they're worse than the Nazis because they were calling for the death of Jews, which is not at all, even remotely, what was being said. It's insane how they're allowed to say that.
It's Andrew Neil and his ilk that keep the shit flying.
Yes,
They keep
definitely.
walls burning because they just don't know how to be decent human beings. They do anything for I was going to say shekel, then that's probably not a good way to put it because I'm not an anti-Semite. As long as
No,
you're a
of
nice
course.
person, you do what the fuck you want. But when you start, when your existence starts impinging negatively on other people, that's time to have a word with yourself.
Yeah,
Because that's why we are where we are.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's,
and I saw the other in inverted commas journalist Rod Liddle. He put out an article. He put an article out today, and the headline was "Let's bomb Glastonbury." So I saw the manager of Kneecap on Twitter saying, "Well, I assume the counter-terrorism police will now be looking at Rod Liddle, right? Because he said much worse things than anyone else." I mean, this is a guy who was, I don't even want to go into his history because it's disgusting, but he talked about
it's repulsive.
Being attracted to young girls and things like that. And
children.
Yes, children.
And he has had girlfriends whose ages have ended in teen. Yeah. As a 30, 40, 50-year-old man. So,
Yeah, he's a vile creature, Rod Liddle. And again, it's these people like him and Andrew Neil and what's his face off Talk TV, Mike, what's his name? Mike Graham. Yeah. And they're allowed to create the news cycle, and they've just because they've been there since, the 1970s, and they're still there now. Nick Ferrari is another one. I mean, he's not, I wouldn't put him as quite as, well, no, fuck it. No, he is. He's as bad as them. Not many as bad as Rod Liddle, but Andrew Neil, Rod Liddle, those people creating the news when it didn't happen. It just made it up, and it's just bullshit, and it needs to be stopped.
Which, speaking of which, that actually has a massive bearing on something we haven't talked about yet, which was Reeves yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Actually, should we talk about the benefit blunder first, and then we can
do that.
Yeah. So they had the benefit cuts bill on Tuesday, and all afternoon, as I was listening in, well, not all afternoon, but the majority of people that were speaking against the bill were amazing, and there were a lot more of them than I'd ever imagined. Unfortunately, there was no one there to listen to them, so what you're going to do. And it actually made me wonder whether there should be some sort of mandatory arrangement for MPs to go and listen to pre-bill speeches, because how else are you going to be fully aware of all the facts?
Yeah, I agree.
And then so it was a bit like the MP who said she only popped out for a banana and came back and everything had changed. They changed so much. They changed it like 3 times, including I can't even get my head around the timeline because I just felt like I was insane because I didn't know what was going on, and most people didn't.
Yeah.
At one point, Liz Kendall stood up and announced some changes, but she announced them incorrectly.
Yeah.
So what she said was happening was the opposite of what was happening. And it's just like, what? And then come vote time, everyone's like, what are they voting on then? Oh, well, so they've removed Pitt from the equation, except they haven't completely. They basically kicked the can down the road. Yeah. And it was like I was saying before about chatting with Paul, and he was like, oh, well, that's what's going to happen. So, but yeah, so also apparently on the same day, something terrible happened in Rachel Reeves' personal life. And then she came into work the next day and had a dust up with Lindsay Hoyle and ended up sat at PMQs sobbing. Now, don't like the woman, haven't got a lot of time for her, but she's still a human being. And if you're in that much distress, you should be sat at home.
Yeah,
now,
she shouldn't have been there.
If that had happened and she'd been looking after her own mental health at home, as was just pointed out to me on Twitter, the press would have had a meltdown.
Yeah, well, that's
And
it.
I'm like, but that's not how it works. If we're unwell, we have to go and get better. That's why we have deputies. That's what they're literally
I
for,
know.
pushing up when, well, but if only there was somebody in this country that could deal with media regulation, Dom.
I know. Tell us about it. I know.
Yeah.
They put some.
The very self-same, they boxed themselves into a corner and now they're literally crying about it.
Yeah, quite literally. Yeah, that's a shame. It's a rough thing. Yeah, I put a post out on Twitter, which is still going a bit mad, about Rachel Reeves, and I said that, whatever your sort of political leanings, I think there's people that due a bit of compassion. I think she was clearly in an awful position yesterday, and whatever had happened, and
yeah,
some of the replies I got were understandable. People that are angry with her for what she's done, and that's fair enough. I just wanted to be more human about it, and I felt sympathy for her as a human being, not as a politician at that point. But some of the attacks that have come out on her are pretty vile. Some of the stuff in my comments,
I mean, they are. But bear in mind, when she first announced that she was going to save $5 billion by attacking the disabled people, several people killed themselves just off the back of that. So
I know.
you
I
can limit your
appreciate that.
sympathy. Do you know what I mean? She's not crying over those people. She's just put into an early miserable grave. So
no, I know. No, I get that. I totally understand that where all that.
That's why a lot of people are seething and will not give a shit. Woman cries. Sorry. Middle-aged woman cries. Yeah, and a dog's just barked.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know what I mean? It's just insane, man.
I know. So yeah,
I mean, if Starmer was a decent human being, he'd have got hold of her before PMQs and said, "Go home, look after yourself."
Oh yeah,
your deputy is.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, is Darren Jones or
she
is
shouldn't have been there.
The fucker with the funny name? There's loads of people that work in Treasury that could have done that.
Oh yeah, no, she shouldn't have been there from the start. Definitely not.
But maybe it just wouldn't have been a good look to have gone home sick after
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, there's that.
Just saying.
That is part of it. That is part of it, I think. But what can you do? But anyway, the welfare bill again ended up in like the textbook definition of a catastrof, right? It was just unbelievable.
That was a dog's dinner. An absolute, clusterfuck, like you said. Shameful.
Yeah.
There should be they can't go on like this because it's
no.
It's like putting primary kids in charge of a shop. They're just.
Who's to blame for? Who would you lay the blame at the feet of? Liz Kendall, or the Treasury, like Rachel Reeves, or Starmer, or?
I'd fire Kendall into space.
Into the sun, yeah.
A bare minimum. But I don't think Reeves. But are we asking what I'd like to be done or what I think will happen? Because they're very different things.
Well, yeah, no. What would you like to see happen? What would be the outcome that would work?
In an ideal world, I would like to see all three of them go. In this ideal world, fantasy that we're living in, I'd like to see all three of them go, and for Clive Lewis to step up and for Labour to go left again. Okay. That's what I'd like. Clive Lewis for PM, please.
Clive Lewis. Fair enough. Yeah, he's an interesting man. I don't know loads about him.
What I do think will happen is fuck all. That's what I think will happen.
Yeah,
nothing.
Most likely, right? So you think this is just basically hoofed until the next election?
Well, it depends, because Nobody's mentioned in the concessions that were made, there was nothing on the age issue, which is insane because they're conflating. Apparently, we have a systematic issue of young, especially boys, not being able to get onto the jobs market when they leave school. Maybe because there's no jobs and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
oh, God, sorry. I've just had a brain fart. What am I talking about?
no, I just said, you said about the age thing and it's being conflated.
Oh, yeah. But they're conflating, like, worklessness of the youth with youth disability. And they're two separate. The youth aren't not getting into work because there aren't any jobs. That's the reason. So how do you expect sick kids to be able to do it? Trailblazers Trailblazers isn't disability specific. It's for youth that have left school up until the age of like 21, I think.
Yeah, right.
So why? I don't know why that is the thing, because people are not less disabled depending on their age.
No.
And that's still going through. The limited work capability group thing cuts are still slated to go through. There's just because there were so many factors in the first place, and it's just uber confusion. What they should have done and what they still should do is scrap the whole thing and do it properly, because funny thing, you get a good result if you do a job properly. If you don't, you get what happened on Tuesday.
Yeah, I still can't. I mean, we talked about it like early doors on the podcast and when it sort of first started coming up, and neither of us could quite understand why they were in such a rush to get it through. And then it went even faster and dropped the consultation and all that sort of stuff, and then ended up at this mess.
I believe the reason is, and I might get a bit technical here, so bear with me. You know the oofy doofy at the end of the year budget?
That's technical, yeah. The budget,
It's something to do with, funny enough, figures on a fucking spreadsheet before a certain date. That's what it's about.
Yeah, usual shit.
Balls to people's health and worry and stress.
If they'd run the consultation, it would have pushed it into next year, wouldn't it? Or post budget, wouldn't it? I think that's
So let's just have no consultation. What?
I know. It's madness. They deserve every bit of criticism they could possibly get for this fucking mess. It's been shocking. It really was shocking. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
I don't think there's a lot left to say. We just again, until the bill comes out so we can read it, we don't know what the bloody hell's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
These are just lives, you know.
It is, and it's really important. I mean, this out of almost everything I've seen happen over the last few years affects people more profoundly, I think, doesn't it, than almost anything else that's sort of come through. I mean, there's been some really shitty stuff with the Tories over the last 10 years.
To a visceral degree.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And like you talked about with Dr. J, and people are so like stressed and anxious about the whole thing. It needs a resolution really soon. You know, that would everything crossed that comes out soon. But it won't,
because they're just kicking the can down the road, aren't they?
Yeah.
What might happen, however, I think at the end of it, when it is done properly, I think disabled people are going to be in a much better situation because they're being forced to consult with us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to take fucking years.
Yeah.
Years. And, you know, people are living hand to mouth and using food banks already, and have been for years and years and years. And that's not getting addressed. So
no, it's not. It's not at all. Well, okay. So, anything else you've got? I got a couple of things, both Nazi related, two different ways.
Fun.
A bit of a fun for a Friday podcast.
Fascism light.
Well, I noticed yesterday that Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson, has been Lemon. That's why I always write, and then I can't not say it now. Has been busy being announcing guests for his Nazi rally in London in September. And he seems to be tilting really, really hard into this Christian nationalist stuff, which I think is something that is a real worry that we need to look
Danger.
at some point. But I was just looking at the people he's got speaking so far, and he's got Polish MP Dominik Tarczynski, I think that's right, who recently said there was no such thing as anti-Semitism in Poland, which is obviously bollocks. He's got Morten Messerschmidt, which is the World War II airplane, I thought. But he's
Messerschmitt bomber.
Yeah, he's a Danish hard-right politician who's currently under charges for being racist in Denmark. He's got Brian Tamaki, a Kiwi, a New Zealand-based Christian fundamentalist who really, really hates gay people. He hates women. he hates vaccines. He hates Muslims. He hates trans people. But he really, really loves the Israeli government. So that's he's an absolute fascist. Then they've got Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah, me mate.
Your mate, Jordan Peterson. Katie Hopkins. Yeah. And then they've got Ant Middleton and Derek Chisora, the ex-boxer. So that's
fucking Chisora. Just.
But that's another power flex against Farage, isn't it? Those two, because Middleton was supposedly going to be reformed.
We've got a black man as our friend.
Well, yeah, but they were both Reform members, those two, and now they're not. Now they're with Tommy Robinson / Rupert Lowe / whatever. So that's a bit of a power flex against Reform.
Yeah, but just like Lemon, he kicked Middleton out, didn't he? Because Middleton went, I was going to stand as mayor as an independent anyway. Well, no, you weren't. Where are you lying? But you are now.
Yeah. So yeah,
and you're going to get that's
one to
monstered by Count Binface.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully. I mean, talk about ideal candidate for London mayor. I'd vote for him if I lived in London still, definitely. But yeah, you want to come on the pod, Count? You're more than welcome. I'd love that. He's amazing. And then just a more light-hearted version of Nazis. I've had the grammar Nazis on my back all week on Twitter, claiming that I use AI to write my posts, and I don't. I just wanted to put that out because because I use these things called M dashes, which are, if you don't know, longer dashes than normal. It's just I've started using a plugin for my browser when I write, and it's just a grammar checker, and it just suggests M dashes, so I use them. But apparently that's what ChatGPT uses quite often. So everyone seems to be attacking me, including Reform councillor. I can't remember which one, but he decided that I was a ChatGPT bot and had a go at me during the week. He's one of the Leicestershire councillors. He decided that I was a ChatGPT bot, and also Gareth Icke, who's David Icke's son, has his own podcast. His producer of that podcast has been attacking me quite a lot this week about various things, but the grammar was one of them. And she doesn't like that she sees me all the time, but she won't block me. So anyway, but that's it. I don't think I've got anything else of substance to chat about, really, apart from I want everyone to join us on Twitter on our community group again, because we've got a good start, but I've not been very active this week because I've been doing other things, and we've had a few posts and quite a lot of members, but it'd be nice to get some more people involved in that. We will put stuff in it soon.
I don't actually know how it all works, I'm afraid. I need like, what I'm like. I know how to post stuff and things, but yeah. I don't. I'm in a few community groups, and I don't know how any of them work. I just occasionally see posts from that group, and I'm just the same as
I think it just kind of keeps a thread of, what we're talking about together, and you see the little heading, don't you, when it comes from that group.
So does everything I post in the group as well?
No, not everything. You have to specifically post in the group if you want to post in the group.
Oh.
So if anyone wants to join. Yeah, and then when they post, if you'll see that it has NoHoldBarredPod Fight Back come up at the top of their post, and that means that they've posted within the community group.
Oh, well, let's have a practice.
Yeah. So anyone else
maybe
wants
at some point
come and join in on that, that'd be cool.
Then once I got Twitter boxed off, Tan's promised to show me how. Once I got Twitter boxed off, Tan's promised to show me how Instagram works. I can drop a post, but that's the limit of what I can do online.
Yeah. TikTok,
Fun.
we're on there. Don't forget.
Yeah.
I'm in London this weekend. If anyone wants to come on Sunday to meet up at 2:00, hit me up, and I'll tell you where. A few people coming, I think. Hopefully, otherwise I'll be sat in the pub on my own on Sunday afternoon.
Is that what time we're doing it?
2:00 on Sunday, yeah. So, and yeah, that's about it. I haven't got anything else at all this week, apart from we were going to talk about something a friend of mine, Paul, sent, but due to what happened today with the Diego Jota incident, we will leave it because it's Liverpool related, and we'll come back to it next week. Sorry, Paul, but I will do that. But other than that, I'm done. What have you got? Anything else?
No, that's me done. I'm just, looking forward to happy times over the summer with no PMQs.
Yeah.
Just shout about other things instead.
Definitely. And as I said earlier, we've got Dr. Rachel Morris, who's a Welsh writer who's coming on to chat to us next week. She is awesome, and I'm really looking forward to that. So join us next week for that.
I think she might be American.
Sorry?
I think she might be American.
Is she?
Well, I listened to the podcast that she was on last week, and unless she's got a voice thingy on the phone, she's an American lady living in Wales.
Right. Well, I stand corrected. I didn't realise.
That said, I could be having a wonky brain episode, and she might be Welsh. I thought she was Welsh, and then I listened to the podcast, and she sounded very American. But maybe that episode didn't even happen, and she's Welsh. That could have happened. So.
Well, either way, we'll find out next.
It's no fun living with a brain you can't control.
Fair enough. But whatever
Except
happens,
for TV, because you never get upset with repeats.
No, right? Yeah. Fair enough. We'll find out about a bit more about Rachel next
bombshell.
Week. Pardon?
Yeah. I said so on that bombshell.
Yeah, on that bombshell. Yeah, let's say goodbye. Right, cool. That's it from me. Thank you very much for coming, and
please like, share, subscribe.
Yes, please.
And if you got to this bit of the podcast, well done, congratulations, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely right. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.